in this video, I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what exactly is in a research paper and the 8 sort of basic parts of a research paper that's going to be helpful for you. So the first thing is the introduction. So the introduction provides a brief background. It's usually broken into 4 different paragraphs. The first paragraph is, what do we know in the literature? What are we looking at here? What is the thing? The second part is, what do we not know about this particular thing that we're looking at? And then the third paragraph is, what is your research question? What are you interested in terms of a research question? Then provide a sort of understanding of how you're actually going to address this particular research question. And then the final sort of overview or part of the introduction is going in providing what you actually found, a sort of really brief synopsis of what you actually found, and then get into what exactly the conclusions are from these particular results. That's all it is. It's usually like 4 pages, maybe no more than that. And it's really short and succinct. And that is the way that you actually do an introduction. So the second thing that you have to do is have a literature review or sort of a theory background. That's probably going to be about 5 pages or so, maybe a little bit longer, depending on what you're doing and what you're interested in. But it's only going to be talking about the sort of relevant literatures and ideas that are relevant to your research question. So again, what you have to be thinking about is, why is this so important for your research question? That is going to be a really big thing. It's really tying in this story about explaining the research question, what exactly that is. The third thing that you're going to need in this outline is a brief overview of the hypothesis that you're looking at. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? There's usually anywhere from maybe 1 hypothesis, which is kind of rare, to probably more along the lines of 2 or 3 kind of hypotheses. And then some papers, which is getting on the rare side, they're going to be, 8, 9 different hypotheses. That's getting rare because it's really hard to talk about all the different stuff that goes on with that. The fourth thing that you have to do is make sure you discuss the particular methods that you're looking at. What are the methods that you're looking at? I don't know. What exactly are methods? Maybe it's qualitative stuff. Maybe you detail the setting that you're looking into, going into, what's so relevant from that setting to the research question. Maybe it's kind of the data that you're looking at, what analysis you're looking at, all that kind of stuff. I have a ton of different videos if you want to look at that kind of stuff. By the way, if you go look at sort of the reciprocity YouTube videos, there's lots there. The fifth thing is making sure that you have a sort of brief overview of what you're expecting to find in the results. That is going to be really important. It's usually really, really brief, and just put that in there. It's usually the first paragraph is going to be related hypothesis 1, second one is going to be related hypothesis 2, and third and fourth all the way down to the hypothesis, and that's it. It's really kind of basic. That part is really, really basic, whether the hypothesis was supported or not, and that's it. The sixth thing is make sure that you talk about the discussions and implications of your work. So you're going to provide a sort of brief overview of what the results are, and then get into, well, what does this mean for all that kind of literature that you talked about before, all those different theories, all that kind of stuff we talked about before. What does that mean? That's kind of really the important part, and it's usually you put 2 or 3 different implications of what it actually means. And then finally, you will have a conclusion that's going to summarize everything. Oh, I forgot one more section. You got to make sure that you have your limitations, and your limitations kind of go someplace in the discussion section. Sometimes it's own section. Sometimes you put it right after the results. It's kind of, I've seen it in all sorts of different spots. It just depends on what you want to do. And then and the limitations, you want to actually write down what are the limitations of all the different things that you did in the study. I guess every study has limitations. And then finally, the conclusion is you go through and you write, what is a overview of the particular phenomenon that you're looking at. And it's usually just a paragraph. It's really short. Here's what I looked at, here's what I found, and here are the implications. That's it. One little paragraph, short paragraph, and that's it. And it's really quick and easy. So what is the tip and trick that I do with writing an outline? Well, what I do is actually, because you're learning along the way and you're trying to figure things out, it's kind of like you're just figuring things out along the way. I will write as I go and research at the same time. So I will write one particular section and have an outline with that section, write it out, add some material, and then I'll keep going as I go through and reiterate and go through multiple times of these particular outlines and going through the work. So you might have a undocument at the end where you have, I don't know, maybe it's 40 pages, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter, depending on what you're doing. And then you got to rejig it after that and put it into a new outline once you figure out what the heck you're talking about, right? Because you don't know what you're talking about when you first go through and look at all this stuff. Now, it's important to try to do this and think about what you're doing as much as you possibly can before you start doing anything like that. It's really important to sort of nail down what your theories are and your literature review and your hypothesis and all that kind of stuff. In fact, what you could even do is register the hypothesis at some domains or at some different sort of open science websites, because you want to make sure that you're not sort of changing the hypothesis too much after the fact once you get the results, because that can affect and skew your results. So you want to sort of go through and iterate over time, or you just want to document that process. I think that's more the important thing, is making sure you're documenting what is going on and not necessarily sort of changing after the fact, but you're documenting these different sort of thought processes that you have. It's a really systematic sort of logging of what's going on, right? That's really incredibly important. So that's what I wanted to point out. That's how you write an outline for a research paper.